You've been hearing about this public service loan forgiveness program in the media, right? I know you keep hearing all of these deadlines around October the 31st, 2022. Get this in, get this in. And then there's debt cancellation conversations coming into play. Well, you've landed on the right video because today I'm going to walk you through exactly 9 steps of what you need to do to qualify and be eligible to receive public service loan forgiveness. So be ready? Let's go.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē.
Hi everyone, it's Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. What an honor and privilege it is to be before you all for yet another episode drop here on the Debt Demolisher TV, where today we're talking about student loan forgiveness, and more specifically, one kind of forgiveness, and that is public service loan forgiveness. So if you want to know what are the steps to figure out whether if you qualify, if you're eligible, if you'll be able to take advantage of this limited time waiver, this is the video for you. So I want you to make sure that you grab your pads, grab your notebooks, or even if you have another device that you want to be able to pull up so that way you can walk through the screen as I share these steps with you. I want you to get this done right now. So if you're ready, let's jump into it. So first things first, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program has been a program that has been around actually since 2007. 2007, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program was initiated to help those who were in public service to be able to have their student loan debt forgiven if they have federal loans, and after they've done 10 years of service and have made 120 qualified payments while working for a qualified employer and while actually still working for the qualified employer at the time of receiving the forgiveness. Now, under these stipulations related to the most recent temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, there was a waiver that was initiated to help with the alleviation due to COVID-19. And on October the 6th, 2021, the Department of Education had announced that they were temporarily lifting a lot of the restrictions that were on the original Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that was released back in 2007. So what this means is the Department of Education has been giving everyone who has federal loans and who has qualified employment the ability and the opportunity to be able to get their student loan debt forgiven. So I want to share with you 9 steps that you need to do this check mark to make sure that you are able to understand whether or not this is something that you qualify for. So the first thing that you want to do is you got to make sure that you have federal loans. So I want you to check whether or not if you have federal loans, and you can do this by going to your federal student aid account. So federal student aid ID is the account that you would go to. If you go to this website, you'll log in if you already have a login, and you'll go in and verify your loan types. Do you have federal loans or do you not? And if you don't have a FSA ID account, then it's your responsibility to create one. You can be able to create one relatively quickly. All it's going to ask you is to verify some of your identifying information. Once you verify that information, you will be able to have your account set up, and your profile and your history should be able to be available around all of the student loans that you have. Once you've been able to identify that you do in fact have federal loans, that means you passed the first check. The next check is to now see if you work for a qualifying employer. The good thing about having an FSA ID account is that you can literally do everything inside of the ID. You can do everything under your profile. You can file for forgiveness. You can utilize the help tool. You can do employer searches. You can do all of these things. So with step 2, you are going to actually verify that you work for an eligible employer. So there is an employer search function that is actually available to you even if you don't have your FSA ID account. It's a forward-facing application, so you don't have to have a login to be able to do it. But if you want to just be able to check to see if the employer that you work for or that you have worked for is eligible for the public service loan forgiveness, then you want to make sure that you have the EIN, which is the employer identification number for each employer that you have. One of the things that I'm going to suggest and recommend is that you literally look at your entire work history from 2007 up until now. And the reason why you want to do that is because you don't want to miss out on any potential periods at all. So from this time that the Public Service Loan Forgiveness program stood up, which was in 2007, up until now, where we're at this point where the waiver is going to be able to take effect, you want to make sure that you're covering every single period. So if you have to pull up your resume, if you have to go to your work profile, if you literally have to go back and look to see who did I work for from 2007 up until now, I want you to make your list and do that right now. Now, as you're gathering your listing of employers, something that's very important that you're going to need is the EIN, as I've mentioned. If you work for a former employer and you have no idea what the EIN is, what you want to do is you want to verify your W-2s. So if there's a way that you can go back and find your prior W-2s for the employer who you work with, then that is going to be your best bet. So that way you can plug in the EINs inside of the employer search tool. If that is not the option and you don't have the W-2s for all of the employers that you need, then you're going to have to do some Google searching, and you're going to have to look up your employer, and you're going to have to give them a call, or your former employer, and you're going to have to give them a call and ask them what is their EIN, because you need a form that you need to fill out in order to help you with the student loan forgiveness. The job's responsibility is to give you that information, especially if you contact HR. So make sure that you get the EIN so that way you can check. So that way you can search the employer search function that the Department of Education has on their website to verify whether or not if you work for a qualified employer. Let me say this one thing as well. Even though your employer may not necessarily show up, that does not mean that they do not qualify. The way that you can test if they qualify is by looking at the instructions on the form. So when you go to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness form, there is a section on page 3 that literally explains what a qualifying employment is in terms of definition. So as you can see, a qualified employer includes the government. It's a nonprofit organization that is tax exempt and under 501c3. It could be a government, it could be federal, state, and local or tribal government. It is also a not-for-profit organization that is private, that actually does public services. And so those public services will be emergency management, military service, public safety, law enforcement, public interest legal services, early childhood education, public service for individuals with disabilities and the elderly, public health, public education, public private services, school library services, and other school-based services. If it is services that is offered by a private not-for-profit organization, then they are considered a qualified employer. Also, those who work with AmeriCorps or Peace Corps, that means that you are also qualifiable. If you are full-time, there's a separate section in terms of you being full-time. You have to at least be working 30 hours per week. 30 hours per week. So if you feel like any of the jobs that you worked for in the past fell under any of what I just read and what I just showed to you on the screen, then you, my friend, want to make sure that you get in a public service loan application, especially under the limited time waiver process. Now that's step 2. The third step is you want to identify the types of federal loans that you have. So there are certain types of loan programs that are only eligible for public service loan forgiveness. And one of those is that it has to be a direct loan. However, under the stipulations related to the limited waiver, there are certain types of non-direct loan programs that are now being eligible to be consolidated over into a direct consolidated plan in order for it to be eligible. So any non-direct federal loans that you have, you can consolidate those into a consolidated loan in order for it to now qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Now, there is a stipulation and there is a caveat as it relates to these two. So let me explain it really quickly. When it comes to the types of non-direct loans that can be consolidated and that will actually count in your favor, is only going to be the Perkins loan and the FFEL loan. So if you have a federal family education loan, or if you have a Perkins loan, those two loans can be consolidated into a direct loan, and any of your payment history, any of your payment counts, any of that prior activity from 2007 up until now, you will be able to carry forward as qualifying periods under now the public service loan forgiveness. So this is the piece that's extremely important for those who have non-direct loans that are Perkins loan or FFEL loan, because you want to make sure that you get your consolidations in ASAP, because you're not going to lose any of those prior periods that you've already been able to get accustomed to and be able to earn. Now, when it comes to the other types of loans, there is a stipulation, because any of the other non-direct loans other than the FFEL or the Perkins, any of those other ones, your count is literally going to start over. You can't transfer any of those prior payments over. You're going to start from zero when you consolidate. So that is something that you have to take into consideration for those other types of loans, unless you already have a direct loan that is on file and that you've already been paying on, And then if you have something that you've already been paying on because you already had that direct loan, your account is going to start from the earliest loan that you had that is qualifiable. The earliest loan that you had that is qualifiable. So if you need to consolidate, you may not need to, but if you need to consolidate, then that is going to now be your next step. You want to determine if you have to consolidate, and the best way to do that is by testing the scenarios, by leveraging the Department of Education's Federal Student Aid's loan simulator. So they have a loan simulator on their website that will allow you to do the testing of consolidation before you actually submit an application. Because once you submit an application, there is no turning back. Once you click, I want to consolidate, you cannot undo it. So you have to be absolutely sure that this is what you want to do. And the loan simulator is going to help you do the math and see the calculations to see if that even makes sense. Because if you're in a situation where you have an FFEL loan, or if you have a Perkins loan and you have a lot of payment history, or you had those loans for a long time and you've been working with public service for a long time, then more than likely, once you consolidate, your loans are going to be forgiven like that. But when it comes to the other things, you may have just gotten into public service, maybe 5 years and maybe 6 years ago. And so you haven't quite gotten to the point where you'll have the full 120 periods that you need. So that means you may have to still be paying on your loans once it's been consolidated under those new repayment plans, under those new interest rates, under those new amounts that may not be too feasible for your budget. So you want to take that into consideration to see if this is something that I want to be able to do, and if I can manage 5 and 6 years down the line, once I get to the point where I can reach the 120 payments for it to be forgiven. Okay, so once you've determined, you've done the simulator and you said, okay, this is what I want to do, you're going to go ahead and apply for consolidation if you need to, only if you need to. And one of the things that you want to make sure that you know is that upon consolidation, it takes approximately 30 days or more for that consolidation to happen. Now, if you're asking the question, well, wow, if I consolidate and I have to consolidate and it's going to take me 30 plus days to process, do I have to wait 30 plus days before I can submit my public service loan forgiveness form? The answer is no. So as long as you consolidate, you've signed your promissory note, you got your application in, all you have to do is just let them do what they do for it to process, but you begin to work on your public service loan forgiveness forms so that way you can get your employment certifications as well as get your sign in, get your application in prior to October 31st, 2022. And that takes me to step 6. So step 6, you want to actually complete the public service loan forgiveness form and the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness form and application. This is one form that you need to fill out, so it's not multiple forms. And the easiest way to do this is by utilizing the public service loan forgiveness help tool. So if you log into your FSAID account, there is an option for you to be able to utilize the public service loan forgiveness help tool. So if you log into your account, you're going to see a drop down that says manage accounts. You're going to click on public service loan forgiveness. And when you click on public service loan forgiveness, it's going to open up and prompt you to the help tool. When you go inside of the help tool, you're literally going to be dropping and filling in information. What is your employer? You're going to need the EIN. You're going to be filling out all of the information. You're going to be selecting your loans. You're going to be doing all of this stuff. And as you work through it, as you navigate it, you're going to continue to insert and put in all of your employers. This is why I'm suggesting and recommending that every employer that you've had from 2007 up until now, if you have the bandwidth to get their EINs, if you have the bandwidth to get the information, that you put it in, because every period is going to count for you. The earlier, the better is going to benefit you. So if you have your employment information, make sure that you get that in. Treat it just like you're going through your full resume and you're trying to backdate all of the employment history that you've had, and you're going to put that inside of the application tool. The thing is, when you're using the help tool, if you do not have the EIN, then you will not be able to pull up the company, because what the help tool is doing is letting you know, hey, this employer is not eligible, or hey, this employer is eligible. And when you're going through the tool, it could be multiple companies or multiple entities that utilize the same EIN. So you have to make sure that you're selecting the right one. And one of the things that the help tool does is that it helps you to identify that, because they have a search function that will allow you to type it in to say, hey, this is the one that I'm looking for. because again, when you put in the help tool, when you put in the EIN, there could be multiple companies that will come up under that one EIN, and you have to make sure that you're choosing the right one, that you're certifying where you work for. Now, step 7, after you have completed the tool, you've gotten through everything, you're going to click to download the form. So it doesn't matter how many employers you have. When you click to download that form, the form is going to generate all of the multiple employer sections that you need within that one packet. And so once you download that form, you're going to print it out. And then now your responsibility is to get the signatures from each of the employers as you need. And the signatures that you're going to need are wet signatures. Unfortunately, at the time of the recording of this video, the Department of Education is not accepting electronic signatures. They did indicate that they are actively working to try to get a workaround around it to get that to be allowable. But for right now, you need a wet signature. So that means someone from your former jobs or from your current jobs, HR office, or someone who has the authority and the authorization to sign off to verify and confirm your employment with them, they have to sign off on the form. So it has to look like a physical signature. It cannot be a typed cursive signature. It has to be either a wet signature or it could be a photo image of someone's actual signature. So it has to be a signature form and not an electronic kind of signature. So make sure that you're making sure that when you submit your forms to your employers, that they're signing it off the right way. And I know it could be hard because you may have to turn it in and you don't know if they're going to bring it back to you or how you're going to get it back. You want to pick up the phone and call your employers and say, hey, I need to get these forms signed. What is the process? How can I quickly do this and get the wet signature and have it scanned and sent back to me? Can I email this form to someone? Can they sign it? Can they scan it back to me via email? Because we don't have time to be sending stuff back and forth in the mail because it will get lost and it can get lost. And you only have until October 31st, 2022 to take advantage of this limited waiver. So for step 7, make sure that you get your wet signatures and make sure that you do it fast. And as soon as you get it, you can jump to step 8, and jump to step 8 is mailing your form or faxing in your form or even uploading your form to MOHELA. If you don't know, MOHELA is the new service provider that is managing all accounts that are going to fall under public service loan forgiveness. So for anyone who applies for public service loan forgiveness, your account will automatically transfer over to MOHELA for management and for maintenance. And so what MOHELA is doing is they will be responsible for tracking and updating and maintaining the information around your qualified payments, as well as meaning when you worked for a particular employer, a qualified employer, and you were making qualified payments, that is going to give you the accounts that you need. And so they're going to be giving you your account updates every time that you can check in, you can log into your account, you can see what the changes are. It's going to take some time for them to incorporate all of the changes under the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness form. So if you feel like, oh, I've checked this and my number hasn't changed, just give it some time, but make sure that you follow up whenever you need to. If you want to mail in your form, this is the address that you're going to mail in your form to. This is the address that you'll want to fax your form into. And then if you already have a MOHELA account, then all you have to do is just upload the application directly under your profile, under your MOHELA account, if you already have one. So you all, this is so important for you to do. And after you've submitted your application, after you've uploaded it, after you faxed it, after you mailed it, make sure that you have some form of documentation for yourself, especially if you're mailing it in. One of the things I always suggest is that you keep a copy, because especially if you had to go through so much to get those signatures, you don't want to go through the error where you lose the paper or it gets lost and you have no way to verify and validate that you've sent this off and that you've already gotten the signatures. So I will always suggest, if you're mailing something in, to do it with tracking. Send it with tracking, send it in the mail with tracking, so that way you can have your evidence that it was postmarked and it was sent and it was in before the 31st of October. So if anything, you can always go back and challenge, because you have a copy of the application as well as you have a copy of when it was sent to them and when it was delivered, if you send it via tracking. If you send it via fax, I believe you should be able to get a fax confirmation, so just hold on to that. And then of course, Once you upload it, if you have Mohila account already and you upload your application into your Mohila profile, then you'll be able to get an instant confirmation, I believe, within like a couple of hours or so. So once you got into that part, then you can go to the last step, which is step 9, and that is just to kind of wait it out. And as you wait it out, you want to be continuously monitoring your profile and your account status under your Mohila account, because that will be able to tell you how they're doing in terms of processing your paperwork. So if, for example, you've consolidated your loan and you submitted your application, but your consolidation is still being processed. So what Mohila is going to do is they're going to hold on to your public service loan forgiveness form, as well as your temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness form, which is the same form anyway. They're going to hold on to it until your consolidation processes. Once your consolidation processes, then they can go ahead and do whatever they need to do to get the accounts together to apply that PSLF form application that you had submitted. So I don't want you to think that, oh, I'm going to lose out on some things if my loan isn't consolidated by the 31st, because that's not the case. The only thing that you have to do is submit your consolidation loan application and sign off on your promissory note. And then the other thing that you have to do is make sure that you get your certifications in by October 31st, 2022. So those are the 9 steps that you need to do to qualify for student loan forgiveness under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Limited Waiver. If you are someone who qualifies for public service and you know someone who qualifies for public service as well, I want to highly encourage you to share this with them. And not only that, make sure that you come back and let me know if you got your applications in. What steps did you take? What did you do? I need to know, because the only way that I know is if you tell me. And I want to be able to know so that way I can be able to bring more insight to you each and every time a video releases. If you're new, I want to invite you to go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, and also make sure that you come back, because I have another episode around student debt relief that you don't want to miss. Remember, your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm going to tell you to do, and that's what? Get to work. All right. Bye.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia